G'day punters, welcome to Victims of the Punt. We've got Group 2 racing coming from Randwick this Saturday. We've got plenty to talk about, as well as a little bit of extra cash floating around later in the year. There's also plenty of horses resuming, coming out of trials and also parading first up in the yard. But as always, it's a pleasure to welcome Mark Shean and Mark Rhoden to the program. Mark Shean, I'll start with you. Now, during the week, we've got a couple of new races coming up. One's called The Big Dance, one's called... Now, I thought it was a ELO song that they were trying to rip off, but the 5 Diamonds. I mean, it's not quite 4 Little Diamonds. But anyway, a race for 5-year-olds coming up later in this season. Did you have any opinion on what we saw there earlier in the week?
Well, look, I've done 3 meetings this week and about 400 trials, so I haven't had a lot of time to look at it. But look, there's a lot of innovation. Not a lot for the punter. It seems to be more for owners and trainers and jockeys and for bloodstock who are going to benefit from this, but certainly nothing for the punter who seems to be paying for everything. So we do have some track upgrades coming. Yep. Warwick Farm's going to be done. It hasn't been done in living memory. And Rhodes Hill is one of our 2 Saturday tracks. Well, they dug Rhodes Hill up in the 90s, I think, when it was racing just as it is now. Everyone seems to think that it's okay that Rosehill biased every second weekend. It's not good enough. No. It's the first track that they should be doing.
Yeah. Mark Rhoden, welcome to the program. If I throw to you for a sec, is it too cynical to suggest that the Big Dance and the upgrade on Melbourne Cup Day will purely just to try and get a little bit of extra revenue back into the system?
No, I don't think that's too cynical at all. I think that's probably the primary driver behind it. Well, maybe not the primary, but it was certainly a consideration. So this now means that it triggers New South Wales racing to qualify as a premium day. It's probably one of their highest turnover days on New South Wales racing, regardless of what's on, just because it's Melbourne Cup Day. And now they get to bump up their levy rate to the highest level, which will obviously give them a few more bob. As for the race itself, it's not in competition with Melbourne. Obviously, I've got no problem with that. I haven't really considered the other one, the 5 Diamonds, yet. But I don't know. Is it 5-year-olds only or 5-year-olds up? I don't know.
No, it's 5-year-olds only. But yeah. I think the country race, we may have the bigger stables sort of going to those country cups a little bit more now if there's a big carrot at the end of a $2 million carrot. So maybe that actually is not beneficial to people who train at the provincials or the country who normally that's their bread and butter.
Well, we've already seen perhaps an unintended consequence of just the run-of-the-mill prize money increases in seeing a lot of city stables going to tracks like, Bjorn Baker's always at Bathurst and, tracks like that, where once upon a time they weren't.
Well, they would never go there. Only the battlers who trained in the city would take horses there.
Yeah.
And now they go there and, they win. What do they win? I don't know the figures, but they look to win about 90% of the races.
Yeah, they're always...
it's tough if you're training at Bathurst and Orange when you've got Baker and Widdop coming there with truckloads of horses.
That cost $500,000 each or something like that, compared to their backyarders. On the Rosehill track, we've been over this, but look, I have to totally agree with what Mark said. That some people think they've got an edge when they're betting on a very biased track, which, okay, that's fine if they do have one or they think they have one. But the key is, this is meant to be the showcase of Sydney racing, and it's just it's not good racing, and it's completely unfair to the connections. So, why should 2/3 of the field be out of the running before the gates open when they're racing for $100,000 plus, and it's their big chance to win something? It's not good enough, and especially it looks very poor in comparison to how good the Melbourne tracks race most of the time.
Yeah. Well said. Just rounding out the rest of the race changes. Look, the Spring Champion Stakes will be increased to $2 million and moved to Cox Plate Day, which will be of interest, as is the Stan Fox, which will be renamed the Calendar Presnell. It will be $1 million and will replace the Bondi Stakes, which there's some good news to come out of this, obviously.
But that's strange. They've put that race on the same day as the Spring Champion. So you're looking at milers and 2,000 metre horses, which are sort of fall into the same bracket sometimes. They're going to race on the same day. Obviously, just to try and pull horses from the Caulfield Guineas. It hasn't worked in the past. We'll probably get the B graders again.
Yep.
And plenty of 3-year-old milers are stretched out to 2,000 metres to try and win on class alone if there's big prize money there, whereas they wouldn't take on older horses at that trip. And that splits them. Strange.
And I wonder if this new race will just see an influx of horses from overseas who are in that bracket to try and run as a 4 and 5 year old in maybe the Golden Eagle and then to this new race as well. We've saw a couple of horses bought overseas last year, and it may be on again because how many horses are still racing when they're 5? Around 1,800 metres that are, much chop.
Very few.
Well, we'll look forward to that come November. All right, well, this card on Saturday, there's plenty of horses resuming. We'll kick off with the Southern Cross Stakes, which is a Group 3 over 1,200. That's race 6 on the card. Quantico is scratched, but Lost and Running is now, or is the favourite at $3.70. King of Sparta's $4.60. You've got Overpass at 5, Law of Indices at $7.50, Standout at 9, and Embracer at 11. Mark Shean, I'll start with yourself. Did you have anything of interest here in race 6?
Yeah, well, I did think Quantico would win there, so that's knocked me for a 6 there. Look, I'd probably have to go back to Lost and Running here without a lot of confidence. I know he's got a lot of weight, but I thought he trialled up quite nicely the other day. There is a little bit of rain about as we speak, so I'm just wondering if the track does deteriorate, I'd probably give the race a miss. But he's got a lot of class. King of Sparta is another one who would not be suited if there's a little bit of cut out of the track. Not overly fussed on the race, to tell you the truth. I'll bow to Mark what he likes here.
Yep. And you mentioned one of the horses brought from overseas. Well, Law of Indices is having its second start here after running 5th in the Golden Eagle. Mark Rhoden, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, depending on the weather, I thought the O'Shea stablemates more or less had it between them, so I'm left with Lost and Running. He's got a lot of weight, but I thought the penny might have dropped for him at the end of last prep. He went out in great form. I always like it when they go out at the top of their game. Yeah, I went to Quantico as well, but maybe not as strongly as Mark did, but I thought they had the race between them. And now with the absence of Quantico, and assuming it doesn't turn into a 7 or 8 or anything like that, I think I'd have to be with Lost and Running. King of Sparta was very good last time, but he's back to 1,200 here, and he seems to just always get back. I don't think they can ride him any other way. With the rail out 5, I mean, last week at Randwick on the true rail, he would have been perfectly suited. Rail out 5, less so. I don't think it's going to be a hot rail or anything like that, but I think on paces will be better suited than they were last week, and swoopers won't be as well suited as they were last week on that. So I think Lost and Running could be midfield and the one to beat. I don't think I'll pull the trigger yet. I'll wait and see what the weather does. But yeah, I think 370 would probably get me in. Yep.
I don't know what this track's going to do. I've had in my notes the last 3 5-metre rails, I've had the fence off. So
yeah,
I don't know if I'm dreaming or not, but
it's been hard to lead. I think that, well, a metre either side, so 4, 5 and 6 metres, I've had it hard to lead, but hard to swoop as well. So it was sort of a bit up and off, a bit running line and maybe fairly handy to midfield. And yet, you go back to July, that meeting that got called off after 8, 5 litres had won. I think that was on 6 metres on a heavy track, and 5 litres out of 8 races won. So, bit of a crapshoot.
Yep. Let's look at the quaddie. Race 7 is the Light Fingers, the Group 2 for the fillies over 1,200, and Espiona's at $1.50, Fangirls $8, Jamaya's $8.50, and everything else as well and truly into double figures. Mark Shean, your thoughts on Espiona resuming here?
Oh, look, she's trialled up fantastic. She looks a freak. The sectional she's run at both wins were outstanding. She's won on a wet track if the rain does come. The only query here would be there doesn't look to be a lot of speed in the race, and it's a big field. So, if he is forced to go back and is trapped wide, maybe that's not the place to be on the day, but we'll just have to watch a couple of races early. Look, I don't think she's meeting any world beaters here. I think Jamaya was most unlucky in Queensland and probably wasn't suited at 1,400. She comes back to Randwick, 1,200 metres. The only other one I could entertain would be Zuzarella, which is unbeaten at 1,200 metres. Did get a very soft lead in a trial at Warwick Farm, but she was very strong through the line, and she could probably roll forward here and be in the first couple. So I couldn't bet around the favourite, but if you are looking for something, 3 and 12 for me on that respect.
Mark Rhoden, if you have a look at your punting form data, obviously Espiona, when gapping a 5-horse field on debut, really good performance against the class benchmark. Second start, went and completely gapped a field at Flemington. The cash was on that day at that very skinny quote and produced a strong figure overall. In fact, just off the top of my head, I can't actually remember a figure that big for a second start. Does your figures have anything else that gets close?
In a word, no. Yes, her rating with me for a midweek maiden win was high, very high actually, and then she's actually improved off that second start. So she's one of the most exciting horses in the country. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how far she can go this autumn. She really does look like kicking off with a win here. She's just, quite frankly, better than these horses. $1.50 I couldn't take because there are map issues, as Mark alluded to. But against that, there's no way in the world I'd want to bet against her. I think they've probably got the price about right at $1.50, but couldn't bet against her. I think Fangirl's a nice horse, but needs further than 1,200 for her best. And Zuzarella, I think, will be ridden positively, and I liked its trial too. But their place chances, to be honest, if barring anything going horribly wrong on the run, I'm expecting Espiona to win.
Very good. Race 8 is the Apollo, another Group 2, 1,400 metres, and Think It Over is favourite at $3.90, best available. Very Elegant's $5, Colette is $7, Riadini $9, Maximal is $10, I Am Superman $11, Ice Bath and Special Reward around that $14 mark. Mark Shean, your thoughts here, and probably just a comment on Very Elegant resuming as well.
Yeah, look, I think the yard's obviously very important for these races first up, but I think It Over is going to be hard to beat, in my opinion. Just looking at the map, Riadini should roll forward. I think It Over will roll forward into the first 3 or 4 at the very worst. Handles all track conditions, was unlucky first up last time in, and then went on a winning streak when Nash got on board. And he just looks to posse up in a good spot here. I thought Special Reward does have the race fitness on his side. I know he hasn't been beating much, but I think that race fitness and the fact that he can take up a position from a good draw will stand him in good stead. I Am Superman, it's another one who's trialled up okay, has drawn wide, he'll probably roll forward, but he would need it to be bone dry. So if there's any moisture about, that would probably be a problem for him. Not sure where Very Elegant gets to from that barrier. I'd probably bet against her, I would say.
Okay. Mark Rhoden, I'll get your thoughts as well. And I guess Rob Scurry's been developing a really strong profile in Very Elegant, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he suggests first up, because I think the last couple of preps from memory she's been a little bit on the forward side.
Yes, I think that's right. I might end up backing her, and I've gone over this a few times. It really comes down to how I treat this Melbourne Cup win, which is one of the best performances. It's right up there in the top echelon of performances I've ever seen. It was an absolutely outstanding performance, and this has shades of, going back in time a bit, Maccabi Diva winning the Memsie first up. Admittedly, that was on a heavy 10 or something, but they let her go around at 750 first up over what appeared to be an unsuitable trip, and she brained them. Look, she's the best horse in the race. On that Melbourne Cup win, she's the best horse in the race, and it's not close. She's lengths and lengths. That's lengths better than anything else in this race is capable of. I think at $5, I'll take the risk and just see if she can do them on class. If that Melbourne Cup win is her, that's the risk. Because before that, her form wasn't really up to that level either, all of last spring. She really did go to a new level. If that's her, she can even come back a level off that and win. Barry 1, maybe she gets... If she jumps well and settles, she can be midfield, and maybe that'll be all right. Look, I concede there are a lot of potential hurdles to her winning this race, but I think at $5 for a horse of her ability and just class is too good to pass up, and I'll be with her. And the one I could probably save on is Riadini, who I think has had 2 trials, 2 really solid hit-out trials to bring him on for this, and his best is good. He was very competitive with Think It Over. And Very Elegant, in fact, when they met in 1,600 metre race last spring. So at the price, I could possibly save on him, but I think I have to back Very Elegant.
Okay, top of your head, do you think Very Elegant drifts or firms on the day?
No idea. That'll be yard dependent, won't it?
Yeah, I think a yard, but she's looked fairly forward, as your boys mentioned there. I suppose she has drawn barrier number 1. If the fence is off, she could get a bit easier there. She can get a bit strung up on the rail there in the past. She did get strung up on the fence there one other day when she was beaten a short price favourite. In fact, she won. What race did she win first up? The Winks there, but they went mental in front and she just circled around the outside. Off that, she has failed first up in those slowly run races where it's been a sit and sprint. So I think the pace is a concern for her unless Riadini rips along.
Interesting race nonetheless. Race 9 on the card is the Triscay over 1,200. Group 3, and Snap Dancer, my old mate, is favourite at $3.60 from Promise of Success, $5.50, as is It's Me. Fatus is $9, Mirror Vision 10, then you're out to 18 also for Evangelic. Mark Shean, another interesting race here, and obviously the resumption of It's Me.
Yes, it's interesting. It's Me. She won a trial, I think, at Scone, but she beat two horses there. One was beaten at Bathurst that ran second in the trial, and the third horse won at Bathurst. So I'm not sure you could deduce a lot from that, but she did look to go good, but she hasn't raced for a long time, 69 weeks, and she's hard in the market here. So I think she'll drift myself. Snap Dancer does set up very well here. She was beaten in that race for the Gold Coast last year. She's come back and won it this year in impressive fashion, has race fitness on her side, obviously gets a good run in a race where there doesn't look to be a stack of speed. I thought Mirror Vision trialled really well. She has drawn wide here, but I think she looks value. She trialled in a very strong heat at Rose Hill and went to the line very well. So normally she runs well fresh. She's 4 out of 7 at the distance, so I think she's worth a spec at odds. And I thought More Profits trialled quite well also. Promising success, I'm just a little bit worried that she might get back on the inside and may want further, but no knock on her. I've been on an every start, but just at the 550 and if the fence is no good, so that's a question mark for me.
Mark Rhoden, your thoughts?
I think Snap Dance is the one to beat. I haven't got it quite as short as 360, to be honest, but I do have a quite clearly on top. It's Me. Well, this would be some sort of training performance if you can get her to win this. So free race first up after 2 years or whatever it is, or a year and a half. Some performance. I can't entertain her, but if she gets up, it'll be a very good performance. I'm going to spec one at odds here. Number 2, Electric Girl, second prep for the Hawks camp. Now, most of her form last preparation, you'd say, wasn't up to this grade, but her last win was very good and it was by far the best run of her campaign, I thought. As I mentioned in relation to another horse earlier, Lost Her Money. In fact, I love it when they go out on a high like that. And I think she's trialled perfectly acceptably for this too. And I think Jay Ford's one job will be to fire her out and put her into the race and get her up on the speed. And I think at $26 plus, she's a pretty easy bet to have, and it doesn't have to be a big one. As I said, Snap Dancer, the one to beat. I like Mirror Vision's trials for this too. Barrier 13 just put me off slightly, but I think she's in the race, and then I was out for the likes of Faters. But and I should mention Promising Success. I don't like the map. I think she's very talented, but I could just see her getting into a bad spot here at a short enough price. So Snap Dance is the one to beat, but small spec on number 2, Electric Girl.
And an even way to finish, I think is the best way to put it. Benchmark 88 over 1,300 metres, and the market has She's All Class and Bound to Win at the top, with Legay Soleil. They're all around that $5.50 to $6 mark. Invinciano $7.50, True Detective $10, as is Bring the Ransom. You've got Mato Watape, got it eventually. It's got to slow down with that. $12 or so, and then Poetic Charmer at $13. Mark Shean, dartboard.
No, not entirely. Look, the one's tried like Farlap here, Legay Soleil, but it has drawn 15, so you'd want to be seeing swoopers win. But if they're getting a fair go from the back, you'd have to have something on it. It's very good, fresh and dead set tried like Farlap. Look, I think Invinciano is dropping class here and might get controlled depending on what they do with Tapia, whatever it's called, number 4. It was labelled urgent in a trial recently to get its mind back on the job. Not sure if they'll do that on race day, but otherwise I think Invinciano probably rolls to the front here. She ran against Special Reward the other day and drops back to an 88 here. So I thought 1,300 on that turning track, just a short run to the first bend. She should be able to roll forward, probably get the lead and be hard to run down. As I said, Legay Soleil, if they're making ground. Bound to Win's trial well, and Mokalula's trial well. So I think there's plenty of chances here. I do not like She's All Class at all.
Mark Rhoden?
Yeah, I thought She's All Class was, to some extent, making the market here. I backed her in one of those fillies races last prep. She ran in 3 of them, and I just really think the jury's out on whether she's any good. There's very little evidence to say she's much good, and even less evidence to make a favourite in a race like this, open benchmark 88. I'll be having something on Invinciano. Sat on a decent tempo and better grade than this, and was fighting on right to the line. I think if it leads, that'll be ideal, but if Mato Attack with the blinkers on wants to charge to the front, she can sit off, and just be a clear second, which will be equally as good a run, I think. So I like her. I like Mokalua. Another one who's gone out of her top in that mile race at Mini Valley. I think it was on Cox Plate Day. Tremendous turn of foot, admittedly, 1,600 metres. But she went to a new level that day. She did have Jay McDonald on that day as well, admittedly. But she showed something there, and she's trialled well, as Mark said. So I think she has to be a bet at the price she is. And I'm on the fence with our mate Bring the Ransom, who owes neither Mark nor myself anything after getting the job done last time. But she had a checkered passage that day and was, I thought, entitled actually to get beaten, but she pinned the ears back and attacked the line really well. She's drawn 10 this time. She drew 2 that day, so that's a little nickel. But she's double figure odds as well. I think things like Bound to Win is a chance. Legay Soleil, I just was really put off by the map guy. Look, if they are swooping, she probably deserves to be favourite because that trial was something else against pretty good horses too. But as it stands, I'm going to just oppose it on the map until I see evidence to the contrary. So, anyway, to summarise all that, I'll be backing Vinciano and Mokalua, maybe Bring the Ransom, and just with that question mark on the Gay side.
It's a very deep card. It looks like a lot of fun actually coming up this Saturday. We'll see if you've got any best bets or value bets or lay bets for that matter on the card. Mark Shean.
No, I don't really have a moral by any stretch of the imagination. I think Vinciano will run well in the last if you can lead there. But look, I wouldn't say there's many standouts. It's a pretty open day, a lot of horses resuming. So hopefully in the tips we've given you, we can find some winners.
Absolutely. And Mounting Yard Mail, Rob Scurry will be crucial. Mark Rhoden.
Yeah, not a best bet as such either. Look, you're going to have small bets at odds. The Electric Girl in race 9 at 25 to 1. I think she's backable. And in race 5, Bjorn Baker's split up Offshore and Savory. So Offshore's going to run tonight and Savory's going to run tomorrow. Look, she had every favour in the world when she won at Canterbury last start, but she ran really good time and she's getting a big weight pull off the others in the market like Warreri Falls and Yee, and she looks to posse up fairly handy mid with the trail again. I think with the weight pull at around $9, she's very backable as well. So not a good thing by any means, but race 5, Savory, and race 9, Electric Girl at a bit of odds.
And he'd be pretty much dependent on the track being fairly dry too. He wouldn't want it wet.
No, well, I think Dicko's point is, if you see a big price, you just back him and hope the connections do the right thing if the conditions change for you.
That's an interesting race, that, because I thought the stablemate O'Mudgee had a chance. Who was just lost complete tack on their field there the other day, talking shorthand here. Just got too far back last start, and Yee was off a 3-week break, so he probably was a little bit vulnerable there in the straight. Very interesting race, I thought, race 5.
I thought Yee was just short enough at 240.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, O'Mudgee in the race too, I was a little worried about the map, but, certainly an interesting race.
Surely he won't be as far back as he was last start.
Couldn't be.
Very good. Big thanks to Punting Form as always, but I think we'll be back on Monday to reviewing these meetings. It looks a really good start to the Autumn Carnival, and it's only going to get better from here. So thanks very much to you both, and go well over the weekend.
Thank you, boys.
Thanks, mate.